5 reasons why you're not progressing in your study of Spanish right here. Hola, soy señora Sara y soy maestra de español. Llevo 11 años en México y si quieren inscribirse en una clase conmigo, checa la descripción de este video o el código QR arriba. First reason why you're not progressing in your study of Spanish is you're not doing the work. I know, nobody wants to hear that, and that's the reason why pretty much none of us progress on anything that we're not progressing on, but it's just the truth. You can blame your memory, you can blame your lack of Spanish speaking heritage, you can blame a lot of things, but the most likely factor is you're not actually doing the work. So if you're one of my students watching this, like, haz tu tarea, okay? Please. And a bonus tip to go along with this is please stop getting caught up in the minutia. What I mean by that is there's a lot of people that love to argue about the best way to learn a language, the best activities, the best apps, the best teachers, AI or not AI. Is it Babbel? Is it Duolingo? Is it classes? Is it just speaking? Is it full immersion? Is it comprehensible input? Here's what I'm going to tell you. Me da igual. I really don't care. Just do something, please. Don't get caught up in the minutia, because if you get caught up in the arguments online about what the best way is to learn a language, you're never going to do anything. So please, just get started, put in the work, and you will see progress. We're going to get into number 2 in a second. I just want to say, excuse me for looking around constantly. We're walking around the park today, and they're repairing part of the walkway. So I have to keep looking where I'm going when I normally would not have to. Welcome to the park in Mexico City, by the way. Reason number 2 why you're not progressing in your learning of Spanish is you don't care enough. And this is in by no way a dig on you if you don't care enough. I don't care enough about learning French. I have Babbel, cool app, love it. I supposedly want to learn French. I think it would be great to speak French. But truly, it's not my priority. I don't care enough. I'm a busy Spanish teacher. I've got a life just like everybody else, and I just don't take the time to study French. If learning Spanish is truly not a need in your life, you probably don't care enough among all the 100 million other things you have to do to actually put in the work and the reps to learn the language. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just not something you need right now. That's just fine. Why are you interested in learning Spanish? Comment below. I'd love to see what you have to say. Bonus, why are your kids not progressing in Spanish? Well, it might be because they're not studying with me or my husband. Just kidding. There are plenty of awesome teachers out there, but if your kids or grandkids need a little support with Spanish, remember, both my husband and I are seasoned Spanish teachers. You can check out our classes at outschool.com/teachers/ either Senora Sarah or Senor Eliu. Reason number 3 why you're not progressing in Spanish, you're not getting enough exposure. A lot of people go to a language class thinking that you're simply going to speak it by attending class and like sucking up what the teacher is telling you in the classroom, kind of like through osmosis, and that's not how it's going to work. That might work for a math class, but that is not going to work for a language class, especially if you don't live in a Spanish-speaking area like I do. You need to be exposed to the language. That means you need to hear it and get in that environment somehow. In my case, I was not blessed with a family that spoke Spanish or friends that spoke Spanish. I lived in a 100% English-speaking community in central Pennsylvania. No exposure whatsoever to the language. So I had to do what I like to call creating my own Spanish-speaking world. That means listen to the music, listen to the podcasts, watch the movies, do whatever you have to do to get Spanish exposure. It will help you. Are you going to understand everything right off the bat? No, it's going to get on your nerves. I know, I've been there, but you will get exposure and it will help you. Something else that can help you a lot is to take notes whenever you hear a new word. That will help you a lot. I had my notes app on my phone loaded with words that I learned while I was working at that super boring desk job in central Pennsylvania as a secretary. Ugh. Yuck. Okay, like mind-numbing, boring. So I would listen to the radio in Mexico or Spain or podcasts and just jot down extra words after I learned some new ones. Eventually, I had whole pages full of new words that I was learning, and it really did help. A little bit of a caution though, you're not going to just get Spanish through osmosis. Remember, this is one tool in your arsenal, all right? It's not all you have to do. Reason number 4 why you are not progressing in Spanish, you are too worried about grammar. Now, this might sound weird coming from a teacher, but I believe that there is a balance when it comes to grammar. Grammar is important, yes. Students ask me all the time, is grammar important? Yeah, it's important. It makes it clearer what you're saying. It makes it easier to understand you. But sometimes, especially as like adults and even teenagers, we get like caught up on this. Like we want to speak perfectly, right? And so we lock up and we don't say anything. Please don't do that. There's a balance. I want you to speak correctly, but more than that, you just got to get the words out of your mouth. Little kids do not care about grammar. Now, they have an advantage with how their brain works and stuff, but they don't care about grammar. They're not sitting there thinking about grammar rules. They're important, and that's how we as adults and maybe even teens learn grammar, right? It's a little bit different from little kids, but please don't lock up and like stop speaking because you're afraid you're going to make a grammar mistake. Just get the words out. Eventually, they'll come out right. By the way, as a reminder, if your kid needs a Spanish class, check out the description box below, or you can use this QR code up above. Reason number 5 why you're not progressing in Spanish, you're too dependent on English. In other words, I also like to say that you're too worried about literal translation. When we learn a new language, we learn a new way to think, we learn completely new sentence structures, we learn new ways to express our ideas in full phrases and thoughts. So when you try to go the direct translation route, sometimes it works, but a lot of times it doesn't. Let me give you a quick example. If you say tienes razón in Spanish, this is a phrase that means you're right. But directly translated, it actually says you have the reason. And I have heard people, my Spanish speaking friends, very often say that to me. They'll say, you have the reason. Now, you as an English speaker, does that make any sense to you? No. That's a good example of them depending too much on Spanish, right? They're trying to directly translate. So sometimes we just have to learn whole new phrases, whole new ways to think in order to clearly express ourselves in that new language. Thank you so much for joining me today in this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Nos vemos!